Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Monday Night Showdown is right here for week 10 in a game between the Seattle Seahawks going to San Francisco to square off against the 49ers. This game has a total of 47. The 49ers are favored by 6.5. And there's a major injury that's going to open up a little bit of volume on this slate. But it's a kind of an ugly game. I mean, this is not a great matchup. There's a lot of points projected for this game, so there should be some back and forth, but you're looking at a San Francisco 49ers defense that has allowed the least DraftKings points to opposing quarterbacks, the third least points on DraftKings to opposing running backs, the third least DraftKings points to opposing wide receivers, and they're one of the best tight end defenses in the league as well. Somehow, we have to assume that Russ Wilson is going to be able to produce some sort of offense in this game through all of it. They do expect this to be somewhat competitive. Both teams have team totals in the 20s, and we've got to try and find a way to get through this in a single game showdown sort of way. Why don't we just get to the breakdown and go through it? If you would be so kind, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, make sure that you ring that notifications bell, because as the weeks go on through NFL, I just keep piling out content here on YouTube, and I would not want you to miss any of it moving forward. So please ring that notifications bell so that you get that notification anytime I publish new content. Let's get to the slate. The elephant in the room is George Kittle. He is dominating the 49ers in terms of market share of targets, in terms of market share of red zone looks. Let's go over to NFL Savant. Let's take a look. They have the quick visualization for you. 27% of the 49ers targets go through this man's. He is a major loss for him. He's doubtful, not expected to play on Monday night. I'm recording this video on Sunday. I am assuming through this piece of content that he is going to be out. If he's in, it is a great matchup for tight ends against Seattle, as they've allowed teams to be extremely efficient quarterbacks in terms of their QBR when throwing to tight ends. They've allowed enough touchdowns to the position. They allow a lot of completions to that position, a very high amount when compared to other teams when targeting tight ends. And you look at what he's been doing, or what he's done this season in the red zone. 30.95% of the red zone targets for San Francisco go George Kittle's way. Just an absolute volume monster, and he was not priced at a point where I thought we needed to avoid him on this slate. This was a great spot for him. But now we have to figure out who is going to be the backup, and we kind of have an idea. He's not priced up really high. The name that you're going to recognize is Tuilolo, who is only 1,800 in the flex, but last week Ross Dwelley played about 70% of the snaps when Kittle was still in. I'm expecting him to play the vast majority of the snaps. He's priced at 2K. He is a release valve for us in terms of salary. He is somebody who's going to be extremely popular both at captain and at flex. He is going to open up a ton of looks for you, as he should get enough volume of snaps and enough volume of targets to satisfy his salary at $2,000 in the flex, $3,000 in the captain, to allow you to get everything else that you want. This is a game where you can play the defense in the flex and the captain spot, at least in terms of the San Francisco 49ers defense, if you think that they're going to get enough pressure on Russ. But Ross, with the matchup that he has and this spot, is, in my opinion, one of the top value plays in the slate, if not the top value play on this slate. Looking at the top, Russ Wilson, he's just been tremendous. MVP candidate, 1 interception on the year, now faces as tough an opposition he's going to. When he faced Baltimore, they weren't at their best, but they still did well against him. 16 points allowed. He only had 15 points in that game. The problem with Russ is the games where we don't get over 30 attempts from him. He is extremely efficient. When he doesn't throw 30 times, he still can reach value, as we see in this game against the Rams, 23 attempts and 29 DraftKings points. But the games where we really see the ceiling from Russ is when he has to keep up. This could be one of those games, but I don't know if he can be as efficient as he always has been. And that's the most important thing for opposing quarterbacks, or for quarterbacks, is efficiency, not just volume. But when you have a quarterback that's as efficient as Russ and you add volume in there, you get kind of this opportunity that we saw last week against Tampa Bay, when he threw the ball 43 times and had 42 DraftKings points. Just absolutely absurd. I'm not expecting that sort of a performance in week 10, considering the opponent, but he is going to be one of the highest raw projected players on the slate at 11.4 in the flex. If you want to play him in your captain spot, obviously we're going to pair him with the guys that he throws the ball to most, and the guys that he throws the ball to most are 1 and 2, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf has made a little bit of a charge forward recently. The rookie looks a lot better on the field than most people thought that he would. He has challenged downfield, which we knew was something that was going to be in his locker. He's gotten a ton of volume, being the number 2 wide receiver on this team. And with the tight ends that they've lost Disley, they traded away the other option that they had earlier in the year. We've seen the target share for somebody like DK Metcalf go through the roof, but Metcalf's share of the targets inside the red zone and in the end zone have been absolutely amazing. When we look at the Seahawks here, same sort of a situation we're looking at in terms of George Kittle. DK Metcalf with almost 20% of the total targets, which is fine, not thrilling, but fine, right? I'd much rather have this 27% from Tyler Lockett, but once they get in close, DK Metcalf with 24% of the red zone targets and one of the league leaders in terms of end zone targets, and priced way below Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett is an absolute stud, an absolute superstar, taking nothing away from him. Really happy to see the production that he's had this year, moving into the number 1 role. And this is the other side of it. With as much of the market share of targets that Tyler Lockett has had this year, that's all fine and dandy, but we don't really get to see him capitalize, except for those games where, you know, him flex on that high percentage of targets, at 27% market share, if Seattle's only throwing it 23 or 24 times. So in games where Russ is forced, or we can project that Russ is going to throw the ball a lot more, Tyler Lockett becomes somebody who's a little less boomer bust, or a lot less boomer bust. He's a little bit touchdown dependent. We do have the downfield throws for him, and we know how efficient Russ has been when throwing to Tyler Lockett over the last 2 seasons. Just absolutely off the charts efficient when throwing the ball or targeting Tyler Lockett. But the targets just go up and down just massively based on the fact that he's not getting, like, he's got these huge boom games against New Orleans, against Pittsburgh, against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, when Russ has to throw it a lot more. And then other games when Russ throws it 20, 23, 24 times. If he sees a quarter of those targets at 24, he's only getting 6 targets in those games. So we need them in a situation where they're going to chase. It looks like they're going to have to chase in this one. If the offensive line can keep that San Francisco front 7 off of him, we could see Tyler Lockett have a very solid day, though he is priced up at 10-4 in the flex spot. On the other side of the ball, Jimmy Garoppolo, with less targets to throw to, becomes somebody that we can plug into captain and pair with some of his pass catchers, Emmanuel Sanders being a number 1 of those to me going into this week. Considering the absence of Kittle, that opens up a lot of targets for him to soak up. No one player is going to soak up all of Kittle's targets. That's not what we're expecting here. But of the 27 or whatever percent that Kittle sees, if 10% goes to one, if 8% goes to another, if 4% goes to another, in terms of that market share of red zone targets, if 15% goes to one, if 8% goes to another, if 4% goes to another. Emmanuel Sanders, his top pass catcher, and I don't think that it's particularly close considering that George Kittle is going to sit. Typically, we do not pair running backs with the quarterbacks in terms of the captain spot. We see that they don't throw the ball much, even with the volume that they're giving to their running backs, and they get a lot of volume, do the running backs for the San Francisco 49er, whether you think it's going to be Breida or whether you think it's going to be Tevin Coleman. Tevin Coleman has been extremely touchdown dependent. His volume was steady for about 2-3 weeks, and then it fell off the past 2. This game against Carolina, where he had the 4 touchdowns, was absolutely fantastic, but he needs to get himself into the end zone seemingly to reach value, because other than that one game where he was ridiculously efficient on the ground, a long of 48, average of 9.5 per carry, 1.9, 3.1, 2.5 just is not going to cut it. Yes, he had a good game against Cleveland, but a lot of people are having good games against Cleveland too. You look at his efficiency on the ground, it's been spotty at best. And right now with the committee that they have, it's very tough to want to pick between one or the other. We're going to have to for this slate, and I'm flipping between the two of them currently. I don't think that there's one way I could say it's definitively Tevin Coleman on Monday night, or it's definitively Matt Breida, because it seems like a hot hand approach. And if you're playing one lineup, I honestly can't tell you it's this one or this other one, because one could have 16 touches and the other could have 11. And that could fit Coleman or that could fit Breida, the one being with 16 touches. And we just don't know which one it's going to be. There's no way that you could say definitively which one that is going to be. So the other pass catchers for San Francisco that we're going to be considering here, where's Debo? Debo Samuel down at 4,800 takes a considerable leap forward in terms of his volume. I think Sanders is the number one. I think that Debo's the number two right now. We're going to plug him into that group. You can plug Godwin into that group, and we're for sure going to be plugging the tight end Dwelly into that group as well. And any other pass catchers that we feel are going to be open on this slate for us to use in the absence of George Kittle. We're going to be, if we're using Garoppolo in the captain spot, we're going to be forcing the groups to use at least two of the San Francisco pass catchers and bringing it back in that Garoppolo group. We're going to use every single one of the Seattle offensive players as well. So if Garoppolo is the captain, then every single one of the Seattle players becomes eligible. I will also probably be building a group around Garoppolo and including the San Francisco defense in this group. And if I have San Francisco's defense, I'm going to be excluding any lineup that has Seattle's defense will not have Russ Wilson for me, but I may allow that because it is single game showdown and both of them can possibly come through to get us there because of how much value there is on this slate. The running backs in this one, Chris Carson, as I said, San Francisco is allowing the third least DraftKings points to opposing running backs, but Chris Carson does get enough of the volume for it to make sense for you to play him in lineups that do not contain the San Francisco defense. I will be including in that quarterback group and in a lot of more lineups than usual, McLaughlin, the kicker from San Francisco, as their efficiency in the red zone may not be up to snuff without George Kittle in there, and they might stall out this game considering that they're losing their biggest weapon, and the place that is easiest to attack Seattle is with tight ends, especially when you get around the end zone. So our kicker and defense group for this week is going to maybe be a little bit different. We're not going to put him in the captain spot. You could build in the captain spot, but you'd need 4 or 5 field goals to make that worthwhile. But Robbie Gould is expected to miss this game. That's why McLaughlin is the starting kicker. Doubtful for Monday night is Robbie Gould. That's why we're playing McLaughlin, because somebody's going to say to me, what about Robbie Gould? That's why we're not considering Robbie Gould. And the Seahawks defense. Typically speaking, I will allow one of this 4 to be in a group. This is a game where I might allow 2 of the 4, considering how much I believe the kickers are going to be in play. These teams should be able to move the ball against one another at least a little bit, but touchdown efficiency could be an issue, and that means stalled out drives, and that means multiple field goals. That means an ugly game. That means that the 49ers defense and one kicker, or the 49ers defense and both kickers, could theoretically be in play. So this is a week where I'm not going to be limiting to one at the defense and the special teams position. That's it for the Monday Night Showdown. I hope that you guys are having a good season. I hope that you had a good Sunday, and I wish you the best of luck on this Monday night slate. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, make sure that you ring that notifications bell. And until the next video, I'll catch you guys later. Bye.
He's a legend.